Rodriguez, our spectacular clerk of the board, to call roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Board Chair Edson,
Present.
Vice Chair Bob Patel. Here. Board Member Alternate Drucker.
Here.
Board Member Hensy. Board Member Garcia. Board Member Robinson.
Here.
Board Member Desmond.
Here.
Board Member Jenkins. Here. Board Member Contreras.
Present.
Board Alternate Madison Coleman.
Here.
This completes the roll.
Thank you. Madison, welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Madison is filling in for Kent Lee, our director. Director Drucker, would you do us the honor of doing the pledge? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Suhail will now provide a safety brief and evacuation procedures.
Certainly. In case of an emergency, I will dial 911. In case of an evacuation, please take the stairs. Do not use the elevators. Once clear to the building, do not re-enter unless clear to do so by emergency personnel. There are fire extinguishers and first aid kits on each floor of the building. There is a portable defibrillator on the first floor and staff on hand trained on CPR procedures if needed. This concludes my safety brief.
Thank you. Suhail, are there any changes to today's agenda?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Suhail, you again. Do we have any non-agenda public comments today?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. At this time, public registration to provide general public comments will end. Before we proceed, I have a couple of quick protocol items to share. I request that board members please hold your comments and questions until after each agenda item has been presented. And when the time comes for board member questions or comments, please raise your hand and wait until called upon to speak. Also, please remember to turn on and speak into your microphone. This will ensure your comments are heard by those listening online. Lastly, I'm happy to announce that we have a new voting system. There's a small card in front of you that provides instructions on how to vote using the new remotes. And this is what it looks like. So we're excited. The first item on our agenda is approval of the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the February 15th, 2024 regular board meeting?
Contreras moves approval.
Motion by Contreras, second by
Second.
Bob Patel. Please vote.
All right, give me one moment, please.
Should we try that one more time?
Can you please try again? Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Give me one moment.
Yeah. Okay, we've got IT in the house, you guys. We're gonna get this fixed.
Madam Chair, I'll take a roll call, please.
All righty, thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? On the motion of Board Member Contreras, seconded by Vice Chair Bob Patel, to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of February 15, 2024, motion passes.
Thank you. There are 10 items on the consent agenda for action today. So have any members of the public requested that any consent items be pulled?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. At this time, we're ending the public registration to speak on this item. Do any board members wish to pull any items from consent? Let's see, Board Member Jenkins.
Number 10. Number 10.
Number 10. Do any other board members wish to pull any items?
it appropriate now to comment instead of pulling an item?
You can certainly comment,
So I
sir.
will comment then on item number 2 on consent. This is the transit operations performance report. Well, thanks staff very much for putting together these reports. And what I notice is, well, coaster ridership is down and it's nearly 50% to what we had pre-pandemic levels. And our flex service in January was operating at 150% above our pre-pandemic service. So it seems to be a lot more people are using the flex service. As compared to last year, flex ridership has actually increased by 31%. So I don't know, to me on the surface, from my coaster ridership experience, telecommuting is much more commonplace, where we had much of the passenger ridership on the coaster, especially southbound coming from Oceanside, Carlsbad, and then getting off at Sereno Valley. And I understand that's down as well. So I'm not really convinced we're ever going to really get back to those pre-pandemic levels. And I really think we should focus on what the people are using, what the public is choosing. And I think we should focus and enhance that service as best as we can. And it seems that, as people are choosing Flex and other similar services, similar to Uber and Lyft, and I know we're a lot less expensive than Uber and Lyft. We should do more to invest in what people are actually choosing, what the public's choosing, and finding ways to reduce costs, maybe enhance those services. I know it's easier said than done, but it seems to, what I don't want to have is NCTD going the way of sand egg, where you try to change people's behaviors. I think it's better we see what the people are behaving, what they're doing, what they're choosing, and enhancing that and making it safer for them. So that's my editorial on item number 2.
Thank you for sharing your comments. Board Member Contreras, I saw your hand up. Was that to also comment on this particular item? It's almost like we're pulling this one. So let's just say we've pulled it. Go ahead.
Okay, yes, you know what, I think Supervisor Desmond brings up some good points. I mean, it's just in the data. I was just really curious to see, we've always thought about the coaster as actually bringing in the most amount of revenue for all our different modes. With the decrease in ridership, are we still seeing that the coaster is kind of in a way subsidizing the rest of the modes, or is, where are we at? How is that performing financially?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, by and large, rail systems bring in a larger portion of revenue, fare box revenue, in comparison to bus network, or especially paratransit and flex. I think we're still seeing some strong return, obviously not pre-pandemic, but from a financial standpoint, I mean, we still see the value in the coaster. I think to the point made, I think when we look at the system as a whole and we talk about the service as a whole, our traditional setup of where we have those rides and that focus probably needs to shift a little bit. I think to your point, what we're seeing out of the flex service and what we probably want to see as we continue to grow that is, where do we have opportunities in the system to adjust? We anticipate starting to see a lot of that coaster ridership return as a function of Padres games and some of the other ad hoc things that are happening in San Diego. But it doesn't excuse our responsibility to manage the system as a whole. And I don't really put it just on the coaster service as well. I think when we look at the flex service and what areas it's successful, and the planning team is already doing this, so they're doing a phenomenal job of sort of managing where we may need to rotate some of our current coaster schedule to maybe collect that non-traditional ridership. I mean, our peak times in transit in general have changed. And so that historical 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 6 or 7 is just not there anymore. We probably need to talk about more weekday trips and weekend service and some of the later in the evening trips. So I definitely appreciate that feedback. And I think those comments are welcome. And our planning department has already started to analyze some of that in relation to some of the new service we're putting in. And so we would love to bring some of that back and kind of show what the long range plan for that is.
Awesome. And I just had one other comment. When the NCTD Plus comes online, will that be a separate category on this, or will it be kind of lumped into the flex performance?
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that. I think
Okay.
we're working through some of those right now. I think it depends on how we sort of see the evolution of NCTD plus, sort of where it fits in with Flex, where it fits in with some of the other services, and maybe try to consolidate some of those depending on what category they fit in. We have some responsibility through FTA to sort of bifurcate those when we report them at the end of the year for ridership purposes. But if we have an opportunity to manage those collectively, we anticipate doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and Board Member Jenkins wanted to pull item 10, so I think
Sorry.
apologies. Board Member Drucker, go
Yeah,
ahead.
so when I read this coaster performance, the number that I keyed in on was the 19.2 increase since last year. And number 2 comment is flex service is lots of times a money loser. And it is not the amount that we subsidize flex compared to the coaster and bus is a lot more. So, but I'm sure the staff will figure this out.
Okay, with that, Board Member Jenkins asked to pull item 10. I think we'll go ahead and hear it right now before we vote on consent. Is there anyone on staff able to present on item 10, or do you just have a simple question?
I already posed my question, so I think somebody probably will be able to answer it. My question was that we made a decision several years ago to bring back in part of the operation instead of sourcing it out. And so as I was reading this, I just wanted to confirm that our projections and our estimates that that are still valid, because we are taking on 70 employees, but they're going to be under the railroad retirement versus the PERS retirement. So I just want to see if the numbers are still positive. Maybe the retirements are the same. I have no idea.
So as a matter of fact, before the insourcing of our coaster operators, which is part of the group that's going to railroad retirement, they were already covered by railroad retirement under the Alstom contract. So when we did the analysis of the fully burdened wages, the railroad retirement piece was already incorporated. So yes, from the labor standpoint, we do anticipate that's still going to be cost neutral. And just to clarify, railroad retirement has 2 tiers of benefits. It's a tier 1 and tier 2. A tier 1 is equivalent to Social Security. It's exactly the same rate, 6.2%. They don't contribute to Social Security. That piece goes to the railroad retirement. There's also a tier 2 benefit. That tier 2 benefit is equivalent to what we have for other employees, which is CalPERS. The tier 2 rates is set up by the railroad retirement across all railroad employers. I have some data here. In the last 5 years, that employer contribution has been 13.1%. That's since 2020 to 2024. That's 5 years, which is pretty good in the sense that it provides some stability. You know what that contribution is going to be. From CalPERS, the rate has ranged anywhere from 9%. However, CalPERS has what we call the unfunded liability, which railroad retirement does not have. So if you factor in the unfunded liability, that rate has gone up close to 30% sometimes based on the funded status of the plan. So the benefit about railroad retirement is that you know that you contribute 13.1% and that's all you're going to be contributing. Whereas with CalPERS, there's more risk because depending on the performance of your investments or the changes in assumptions, you could be receiving a huge bill, for those employees that have accrued benefits. So yes, the model is still the same. We still consider this to be cost neutral from a labor standpoint.
Okay, thank you. I just want to confirm we're still on the same page that we thought we were a few years ago. Thanks.
Okay, with that, may I have a motion to approve consent items 1 through 10? Motion by Robinson, second by Jenkins. Are we voting with our? Okay, I think this is a roll call vote again. Thank you.
Madam Chair, and just for the record, Board Member Hensy arrived at 2:10 and Board Member Garcia arrived at 2:12.
Thank you. Traffic is uncontrollable.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? On the motion of Board Member Robinson, seconded by Board Member Jenkins to approve consent items 1 through 10, motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving now to other business. Mary Dover, our Governmental Affairs Officer, is with us today to present item 11, the award of an agreement to provide federal lobbying services. Mary, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, board members. I have the distinct pleasure of being your only presentation today. I'll keep it quick. Next slide, please, Suhail. So as you all know, NCTD, this board approves a discretionary grant strategy and a legislative platform that governs our government affairs activities for the district. To support that, we we utilize federal and state advocates. We have a current contract for federal and state lobbying services, which is expiring. So back in September, we issued 2 requests for proposals. We decided to split the state and federal advocacy services and make them separate. So both of those procurement processes are complete. We convened a source selection committee for the federal lobbying. We received 7 proposals, and the source selection committee reviewed and scored those proposals. And we determined that Holland and Knight and Pizer and Associates were provided the best value to the district. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the discretionary grant strategy and the legislative agenda are approved by the board. We also participate in the regulatory rulemaking process. Occasionally, federal and state regulatory agencies propose changes to existing regulations. They propose new regulations, and NCTD wants to ensure that any impacts to the district are mitigated, and that we might be able to work out some benefits in those regulations. So to support all this work that's approved by the board, we have the internal government affairs, which is me and Chris, supported by Lori and Sean. We also participate with industry associations, including the American Public Transportation Association at the federal level, as well as the Commuter Rail Coalition, and then the California Transit Association at the state level. They advocate for the industry as a whole, and so sometimes NCTD's specific needs aren't necessarily included in their platforms. So to support that, NCTD's specific needs, we have external advocates, as I mentioned, at the federal and state level. The state lobbying contract is currently with Townsend Public Affairs. They are our current advocacy firm, and we decided to retain them for state lobbying services based on their proposal. Holland and Knight and Pizer Associates are our proposed federal lobbying associates. The reason why we are not presenting on Pizer and Associates and Townsend and Public Affairs is they do not meet the board threshold, so their contract values are below, and so the chief executive officer is able to enact those contracts. So Holland and Knight is above the threshold, so that's what we're asking you to approve today. Next slide, please. More reasons for why we utilize these services. There are several upcoming federal efforts that are going to be integral for NCTD to participate in the development of. Right now, we are in the process for federal fiscal year 2025 appropriations. NCTD applies for congressionally directed spending and community project funding, also called earmarks. We utilize our federal advocates to set up meetings with members of Congress to work out what they might be interested in us submitting and how we can utilize all the resources that we have to make sure we get as much funding to the district as possible. Congress is also in the very early stages of surface transportation reauthorization. We all remember the bipartisan infrastructure law that will need to be reauthorized in 2026. There is also the Railway Safety Act, which was born out of the derailment in East Palestine. There are some ancillary impacts to NCTD, so we utilize our federal partners to mitigate the impacts of that. The FTA is also going to be considering potential changes to the spare ratio requirements. I am not an operations person, so I don't pretend to know everything about spare ratio requirements, but essentially the FTA requires that each transit agency has to have a certain number of spare vehicles in case there is a need to pull those out of service. Next slide, please. We also have a number of unfunded projects or partially funded projects. These were included in your discretionary grant strategy, so I will not go over them again. But these are multi-million-dollar projects, $100 million projects that we really need all the support we can get in funding these. Next slide. So today, our staff recommendation is to award agreement number 24062 to Holland and Knight LLP for federal lobbying service for a base period of 3 years in the amount of $360,000 and authorize the chief executive officer to execute 2 1-year options in the amount of $120,000 for each option, $240,000 in total, if determined to be in the best interest of NCTD for a total not to exceed of $600,000. And with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you very much. Suhail, do we have any public comments on this item?
No, Madam Chair.
At this time, public registration to provide to provide public comments on this item will end. Thank you for the presentation, Mary. Are there any questions for Mary? Okay.
Wow, easy.
Excellent presentation.
You guys are
Um,
great.
With that, I will ask for a motion to approve item 11 per staff's recommendation.
So moved.
Motion by Bhat Patel, second by Garcia. Please call the vote.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? On the motion of Vice Chair Bhat Patel, seconded by Board Member Garcia, to award agreement 24062 to Holland and Knight LLP for federal lobbying services. Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Suhail, are there any remaining non-agenda public comments today?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Mr. Donaghy, do you have anything to share with us?
I
today?
do. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Just a few things that are going on right now. This weekend, we will not be operating coaster services. We're doing maintenance away work along the corridor. So Saturday and Sunday, we will be down there. There is some information on our website, and we will be updating our social media every day throughout that process. But was over at maintenance away this morning and yesterday, and they're ready to go. That team is excited to get in the corridor and do some of that work. And really, they're doing some amazing things over there. So I just want to give them a shout out before we send them off to the weekend to do some heavy work down in that corridor. Just a little bit on a LoSAN update. Metrolink service is slated to go back into service on March 25th. That's obviously a day-by-day thing, but we got that commitment about a week ago. So we're hoping that that schedule sticks. We were able to go to a LoSAN meeting in LA just to talk about some items that are happening within the corridor. Really a meet and greet for me, but Mary and I went up there and had some really productive conversations about long-term plans amongst the groups between Caltrans and NCTD and Orange County and, just all the agencies that are sort of impacted by the corridor. We wanted to sort of chat about what's happening with that. Big thank you to Representative Peters' office for the earmark for $500,000 for electric buses. That's a big deal. The cost of equipment in public transit continues to increase. I remember when electric buses were just a cool $1 million. Now they're much more than that. Plus, we have a lot of conversation internally, and I think these earmarks help with our push to electric or even in the hydrogen sphere. I think the piece we miss out on occasionally is the infrastructure that's required to support that from the agency perspective. And so we're seeing that at the East and West divisions of sort of the how we're going to farm hydrogen or have it trucked in, or the work that our maintenance and operations teams are doing to make sure that the grid has enough electricity to be able to support the bus fleet over there. Was able to attend the Sandag retreat with Mary and Chris and Chair Edson. It was a good conversation. I very much enjoyed it. The very next week, we went to the Transportation Committee meeting. It was nice to be able to put a face to the name and really have a conversation about what our role is. I really think we're in a very unique position that sort of by default of our location where we are in the corridor, I think we have a lot more at stake than most people, I think, give us some credit for from an agency perspective about how important we are in the LoSAN corridor and that connectivity. And I really feel like North County is primed to really take a front seat in a lot of those conversations and sort of drive the bus or the train, so to speak, on what we're really trying to accomplish there. So I'm excited about that. Chris and I went to a Caltrans panel. I was speaking on behalf of the agency this week at a Caltrans panel. Chris didn't tell me that I committed us to anything crazy, so I guess it went okay. They have those quarterly, and I think this quarter was specific to transportation partners. So we had our friends from Imperial over there, and Sharon Cooney from MTS, and our friends at Sandag. And I think that meeting was important for a few reasons. Not only did we have a conversation with Caltrans about what they could do to support us and maybe what we could do to even support their initiatives. I think the transit agencies had a good, robust conversation back and forth about what we may need to do to help each other in some spaces where maybe we're not doing that super effectively, and really try to tie those things together. So I think that went well. The APTA Legislative Conference is coming up the first week of April. And the one thing that I would let the board know about is that when we go to DC to go to the legislative conference, we do a few things while we're there. We meet with our elected officials and we also meet with the Federal Transit Administration. But when we're there, I also like to make sure that the agency is supporting and pushing forward objectives that your individual cities have that we may be able to throw a quick shout out to while we're there. We get very limited time with our representatives and we may get a half hour tops with the FTA. But I think it's always important that when we go in that room, not only do we talk about the things that the agency wants to do, we have a pretty robust conversation about things that impact our local partners. And we want to make sure that we push forward programs with that. So if there's anything you think of that you may want us to mention while we're there, please let me know or let us know. We're more than happy to do that. We had Tracy and I had a great meeting with the city of Escondido yesterday to talk about right of way and the rail and some of the things we might be able to help out with. So just wanted to say really appreciated that. We've got our board forward initiative that I think you should have been emailed a poll on for what we're really trying to do. And I got to be honest, I really like the idea of the board forward. Board retreats are great. Sitting in a room for 5 or 6 hours and death by PowerPoint is not an effective way to really show our board the things that we're really struggling with at some of our facilities. I think when we're able to put the employees in their space to be able to explain things that impact them and we can show them in real time, it sort of brings a little better understanding of when we come to the board with requests, especially for some of the things we're trying to do on the rail side, that it just it shows that sense of urgency, I think, on our part and some of the things we want to do. We're having a lot of conversation about the agency's role in the community and sort of the brand itself and what we want to do. And so we'll talk a little more about that at the board forward retreat. But we got some new bi-level cars over at Stuart Mesa. I don't know if you saw our social media. Those finally came in here from Thunder Bay. They look amazing. Kudos to the group over at Stuart Mesa. They did a fantastic job and our procurement team for getting those in here. And we're working through some of that. And you should see we're working diligently to get everyone on the calendar to meet. We've had like a super couple of weeks where we've had great meetings and good energy, but I want to make sure we meet with everybody individually. I really kind of want to understand what impacts you, not only from a transit perspective, but in your city on things that we can support as an agency. So looking forward to that. And on the board forward piece, there should be a poll. So make sure you fill out the poll. So we know where we're at on that. And lastly, I just want to take an opportunity to say thanks to the board. We're on day 21. It's been amazing. The employees here are fantastic. And every time I've had an opportunity to walk out and have a conversation with our community stakeholders or our employees, I really just feel the energy that's in the room. This transit agency has been primed by the employees for great things. And we're going to do that. That's our commitment to the board and our commitment to the community. And it starts with our incredible group of employees. And I just want to make sure they're recognized for that. And very much appreciate the board for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to doing a lot of great things. And if anybody has any questions for me, I'd be happy to take them.
Thank you, Sean. Are there any questions?
I haven't seen any emails.
This was something that was approved by me last night, right? Or early this morning.
It just went out today, I think.
So,
Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped the gun. That was my fault. That email's going out soon.
I know, so Helen and I were
saw
looking
the
at each other
preview.
like, I don't. But yes, we decided to do a board forward instead of a board retreat because we really don't want to retreat, right? We want to keep moving forward. So I had this idea and everybody's looking at me like, what? But I thought it was a fun thing to do. And the executive committee has really talked a little bit about, we have a lot of new board members, right? So how exciting is it to get everybody out to really check out what we do and to see our facilities and that sort of stuff? Because when you come on a board and you're voting on things that you're reading in paper, it's not the same as in seeing those operations. So I think this is going to be an exciting, different type of event. And I hope you'll all be there.
Strike one for me. I let the cat out of the bag too soon.
You're in trouble. So do any board members, with no more questions, I'm seeing, do any board members have any brief reports? I'm going to start here with Board Member Bhat Patel.
This is regarding.
Oh, okay. Board Member Garcia.
So thank you. I just wanted to say thank you very much for making the offer to do a shout out regarding local jurisdictions when you speak to our congressional representatives. And I would like to offer the same I just got back from the National League of Cities, and our lobbyists set up meetings for both our congressional and our Senate representatives, and we take time with them. So on my end, I would be very happy to do a shout out for us too, because I think this is something that should be a two-way street. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Board Member Bob Patel.
Not a report out, just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Donaghy. It sounds like in the 14 to 15 working days, I know you said 21, but the 14 to 15 working days that you've been here, you've been doing a lot. So really looking forward to seeing, your work alongside our employees. I really appreciate how much you center our employees. I think that's something that I know a lot of us value. And so just wanted to say, looking forward to it. And I know Carlsbad's eager to meet you too. So thank you.
All right. I am actually delighted to report that the emergency construction on the catchment wall and track at Mariposa Point in San Clemente has been fully completed this week, or will be fully completed this week. Post-construction activities will end the work, and the work site will be cleaned up over the weekend in time to fully restore Amtrak Pacific Surfliner service on Monday. It was promised to me, so I'm telling you guys, I'm putting it out there. With that, Suhel, do we have any remaining public comments?
No, Madam Chair.
At this time, public registration to speak on public communications will end. The next scheduled meetings are the Executive Committee meeting, April 18th, 2024 at 11 a.m., the regular board meeting, April 18th, 2024